Hello Nigerians, we want to thank you for joining us on this week's edition of our Personality Discussion Program. Hostage is the program. My name is Adeshino Anedube. We have another Nigerian in-house today, somebody who has well over 25 years of practical experience as far as broadcasting is concerned, to his credit and to the glory of God Almighty. Our guest on the program today is no other than the National President of the Radio, Television and Theatre Art Workers Union, RATTAWU, Comrade Abel Yemisi Bamgbose. Comrade Bamgbose, it's nice to have you on this program.
Thank you very much, China.
It's nice to really have you. We're indeed delighted.
Thank you very much.
Our guest works for the Ogun State Television, Ogtv 25 UHF, but he remains the National President of the Radio, Television and Theatre Art Workers Union, RATTAWU, the umbrella body for all television, radio and theatre art workers everywhere in Nigeria. He is also privileged to be a member of the unions in Media Entertainment International, which is a worldwide organization for all unions within the media and entertainment industries. I can assure you that Comrade Abel Yemisi Bamgbose is a foremost member of that body. Before actually emerging the national president of RATTAWU, he had the privilege of being the two-time national treasurer of that body, and he had also functioned in the capacity of the state chairman of RATTAWU. He had also at any time been a chapel chairman of RATTAWU in Ogtv. Our guest had his first degree in social studies and guidance and counseling at the Olabisi Onabanjo University at Goiwoye, and he also has masters in personal psychology at the Olabisi Onabanjo University. Today is a PhD student at the same university and is focusing on burnout, which is an element within the media industry, is considering variables that actually facilitate how people get disinterested, or how media contents and everything that has to do with media parties get easily worn out within the environment. They will be telling us more about his doctoral research work as far as that is concerned. We must again welcome Comrade Yemisi to the program.
Thank you very much.
And let me use this occasion to also congratulate you on your re-election as the national president of RATTAWU.
Thank you very much.
We wish you the very best.
Thank you. God bless you.
We have Comrade Bamgbose in house today.
Yes, it's indeed a pleasure to have and a privilege too to have the national president of RATTAWU here. In spite of the fact that he's an homeboy, I will call him, but then a national president by all standards, somebody who has actually paid his due, and someone that has been in broadcast environment for so many years. I'm very sure that his experience will come to bear. So it's my pleasure to have you also in on the program this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Kayode.
Now, Comrade Bamgbose, I recall that when you were elected in 2007 for your first time as the national president of RATTAWU, you had insisted that if it was going to cost you your life, you would not mind, that media practitioners must get what is due to them in terms of remuneration and environmental standards that meet with what obtains elsewhere. It had been the agitation for salary increase, wages increase, allowances increase, and so on and so forth. What is the situation now?
Well, let me start by thanking you for giving me the opportunity to feature on this program, and I want to thank every Nigerian for also the prayers they have been offering unto God to give us the strength to support us and for us to achieve. And let me also commend you. It's a program that a lot of people are really watching, and the caliber of people that you bring on the program. And I want to thank Ogtv for also giving me the opportunity to serve the country, because I know that a lot of sacrifices have been made by this organization, releasing me to serve as national president of RATTAWU. Yes, the situation is a little bit better. But it could be better. It could be a lot of improvement on it. I remember that when I became the president of RATTAWU the first time in 2008, the situation was so messy, and we were not even recognized. the people in the media were so relegated to the background in terms of remuneration. And I felt it is an opportunity for me to really preach what I've been advocating and really say what exactly that can be done. But you know, there is one passage in the Bible that has served as the energizer that have been propelling me to do everything in life. And that passage is found in the book of Luke, chapter 1, verse 37. That says that with God everything shall be possible. So even when it was so obvious that government was not even willing to consider us for anything again, thinking that everything is so rosy in the media, and that when people were even saying that government will not give anything, I had to face the reality and really to face government on it. And I thank God that God supported us immensely, because without the support of God we wouldn't have been able to achieve anything. Although what we have gotten so far is little, so little compared to the kind of input that you people contribute into development of this country. When I say you people, those of us in the media, whatever we have been given is even nothing to write home about. But for us, you know, you have to start from somewhere, and that was why at the end of the day we were able to expand the scope of what you call the weighing allowance. It is not a media salary structure per se. What we have been able to get now in the first instance is the expansion of the weighing allowance, which was before now was just 17.5% or 35% of the basic. And what is the basic? What is my basic? What is your basic? By the time you translate that 35% of your basic, maybe it will not even be more than 2,000 naira or 3,000 naira on a monthly basis. That is the difference between what you are earning and that of a civil servant. And you know the nature of this job, that you only can determine when you are going to resume. You cannot even determine when you are going to, because you may be sleeping and they tell you that, oh, you are still on your bed, we have an assignment for you at 5 a.m. you have to report at the station. And immediately you go out, you cannot even determine when you are going to close, because it has to be a finished product. There is no time for okay, I will continue tomorrow. That's why we adopt what we call we now call it lifeline now. We try to change it from what we call deadline. You have deadline for whatever you do, because as a producer, as a reporter, whether you like it or not, when you go out you must finish the product before you leave. There is no excuse. There is no, okay, I'll come and do it tomorrow. So you can only determine the time you are going to resume. You cannot determine the time you are going to close. And there is no excuse for whatsoever reason, that because your daughter is ill, because your brother is not well, and as a result your program will not go. No, it's not possible. I remember there was a time when my wife went, was operated upon. That very Saturday, I had to come on air with Nifaji, and I was dancing, making people happy at home. So when I go back to the hospital, the doctor looked at me and said, what kind of personality are you? With what you went through before you left this place, I saw you on program entertaining people, and in fact I was so happy. That was the doctor telling me that. Yes, I said yes, this man must be a man with large heart, and that is every media man for you. So what we have gotten so far is nothing to write home about, and we'll still continue to forge ahead to get something better for this.
Now, I know that almost all of the times when things like this happen, majorly at the federal level, implementation isn't a problem.
Yeah.
But having such domesticated at each of the state levels is another thing entirely.
Yeah.
Now, you've got expansion in terms of the wage allowance for media practitioners and theater art workers across Nigeria. We must congratulate you on that. But how effective will be domestication be, such that you will have uniform implementation of the new weighing expansion that you've got?
Do you know that I think in about 4 states now they've already implemented?
And which states are those?
Bayelsa has implemented, Borno and the far north has also implemented, Rivers has implemented, I think the other state, I think it's Nasarawa or Niger State. I'm not very sure of the 4th state, but I think they've written us to that effect that they have implemented. And I know that here too in Ogun State, we don't have any problem, because the Chief Executive Officer of the state, Senator Bikunle Amusu FCA, is a friend of the media, and he also knows the kind of job that we are doing. We've also passed the letter to him and the award, and I want to believe that we have already gotten his words, that there is no problem. And most of the states of Federation actually have communicated to us, to both NUG and RATTAWU, that they will surely implement, because they know the kind of job that we are doing. Ordinarily, it is whatever they implement at federal level that they also supposed to implement at the state level. But don't forget that in 1993, it was Babangida that deregulated wages. It wasn't, when the people are talking about deregulation, a lot of things have been deregulated in Nigeria, but unknown to many people. But I know that many state governments, they've written to us. In fact, when we were fighting, they told our members point blank that whatever we get at the federal level, they will surely give us, because they know that it is the media that is sustaining the unity of this country. And we are all students of mass communication. If you look at the history of the media in this country, before 1997, before 1967, when media was pluralized according to the regional level, we know that Nigeria went haywire. That was the genesis of the Civil War, when the media in the Southwest were just doing the bidding of the government of the Southwest. When the media the media organizations in the Southwest were only doing this, so it was like yes. But now we know we've learned our lessons. No matter the political differences, you will observe that media still plays the role of making sure that we unify this country. When it gets to a particular level, we try as much as possible to ignore the political interference or the ownership interference of the media. We come together as one and look at what is the stake of this country in terms of unity, in terms of sustaining democracy. And I think all the state governments of Federation, they have realized that the work of media, that it is the media that is sustaining democracy. It is the media that is actually bringing about the unity of this country. So they've also told us that there is no problem, and I'm not surprised that about 4 states have implemented already.
Now let me ask you this. We know that the media is the watchdog of the larger society, being members of the 4th estate of the realm, as is often said, coming after the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. There are also instances of media practitioners also getting it wrong. Yeah. We cannot actually rule that out. In such instances where we have the media also going wrong, what are the mechanisms on ground, or do you see the effectiveness of the mechanism on ground as to calling the media itself back to line when there are errors?
Well, I think there are a lot of those mechanisms in place. The Nigerian Press Council, with the headquarters in Abuja, is not just there for fun. Whoever that is reported to that organization, particularly from the angle of journalism, most especially those people working in print media, they are reported to that organization, which also serves as a judge to really determine the veracity of whatever report they have given to them, and they do sanction. And I also know that NUG as a union also has this code of ethics of the profession, and whoever that is reported, I think they do a lot of investigation, and they try as much as possible also to sanction. And even in our own union too, we deal with producers, presenters, and a host of other media personas, most especially in the broadcast industry, where it is established that a media practitioner has run foul of the ethics of the profession. We also have a forum where we try as much as possible to deal, and part of the thing that we do is that we liaise with the organization where he or she is working, and we tell them to remove he or she from the air. And that is one punishment, because an on-air personality that is used to it, but because you have committed one offense or the other, you are banished from going on air. So we use all this one to cause ourselves to other whenever there's any breaches, at least particularly from our own side. But you see, one of major reasons, because without there must be a reason why some people misbehave in their job. A lot of poverty in this sector, which makes people not to really follow the ethics of the profession. You understand? And that is why we are calling on government that, look, if you want a standard society, if you want a society that will call the one that there will be sanity, you must empower the media practitioners of that society. With that, when they have the opportunity of really reporting the events as it's supposed to be, you have a just and egalitarian society. But a society where the media has been suppressed, where the media is not properly funded, where the media workers are relegated in terms of salaries and wages, you will continue to have a society that is not just.
Okay, maybe I will take it up from that particular point you're talking about, that where the media practitioners are not given adequate welfare package. The society itself would be a victim of that kind of. But let's just look at the role the media had actually played even up to the time of our independence. Generally, we agree in Nigeria that the media practitioners have been part of every struggle in this country up to this present day. But we discovered that even this issue of inadequate welfare package has been there for long. Would it have been that the doings of media at that time never bothered about their welfare package? They just think about the profession or what? Because I remember it was the wife of the former president in this country that fought for the nurses, and today nurses are one of the well-paid or best-paid group of professionals in Nigeria. Does that really mean that our own doings in the 50s and the 60s never bothered about what actually come? Rather, they were faced with what they do.
Well, thank you very much, and Kayode. If you go memory lane, you look at the media work, the people that really started it. That is why in this country, when you are referring to people like Albert Macaulay, popularly known as a Jongboro, when you look at people like Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, when you look at some very topmost media practitioners that really fought the colonial route to stand still, you know that they were doing it because of the passion they have for the society and the passion they had for the job. But when and the print media, for example, it was based on like a private organization that is funded by an individual like Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, that had series of newspapers, West African Pilot, the Eastern Outlook, and a lot of other. Before government started coming into the issue of funding or establishing media organizations. And we should not also forget that it was just in 1959 that the radio and television station really came to Africa, and with the emergence of the WNTV, WNBC, WNBS. So, and you know that even then, when government came into it, people were running from other sectors of the economy, from the banking sector, from the oil sector, to work in the media sector because of the better remuneration then, because of better recognition of the media. Yes, people were running. Those that were working in the banking sector, in the oil sector, they were coming to the then WNTV, WM because the salary was better. It was Udoji that came up and harmonized the salary of the media workers. And that was when we got it. From that moment, we lost it, and nobody was able to really fight. And just because of the passion that we had for the job, we were just fighting for others, ignoring our own sector. You understand? Until very recently, And that was why what we use as the basis, as the yardstick for fighting for the new salary, even the expansion that we have gotten. And let me tell you, that is not the end of it, because we told them, even there was another committee that was set up by federal government, we called it Professor Juma's Committee on Relativity, that put it in their own recommendation that the professionals in the media are receiving salaries that are very lower than their counterparts in the other sectors. So this committee has stated that. So it was because the harmonization, the salary harmonization, brought us together with other people. But you also observe that since the harmonization, some other sectors have been able to get themselves out of the harmonized salary structure, because the workers there, the unions there, were able to fight for it. The education sector was also harmonized. The health sector also was harmonized by Doji, because everybody was to be receiving the same salary. But later they started working, they started fighting for their own sectors, and that was what we lack in our own sector. Until very recently, when RATTAWU and NUJ said, okay, we must get out of this war, and that is what we are doing. It wasn't, you see, in any sector you have to fight for your rights.
Okay. Now, we'll still go back a little bit into the memory lane. Like what is obtainable in the education sector. Some analysts will tell you that standard of education is falling. Some people will simply tell you, how do you derive such a kind of conclusion and all of that. I want to bring the same question into broadcasting, because when you see some personalities in the broadcast environment that possibly had the opportunity in the 70s and the 80s, they begin to tell you how the broadcast environment used to be, this and that, how they will have to do this, do extra things to get their stories done and all of that. These days, perhaps the same kind of experience is not what the present day broadcasters are possibly experiencing. Now, in your own opinion, you are equally a very senior personality in broadcast environment. Do you see the broadcasting in Nigeria actually moving forward from what it used to be in the yesteryears?
No, it's not moving forward. About a month ago, the Broadcast Organization of Nigeria, BON, held a summit in Lagos, and I was invited to make a speech there. And the topic of the summit was broadcasting yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And my submission was that broadcasting was better yesterday. Today is not even there, we are not even there, and the future is very, very bleak. And I expatiated that we have lost the quality workers in the broadcast industry to some other sectors. That day, I was happy that the representative of the Director General of National Communication Commission was there. And I told the summit, which happened to be all the chief executive officers of the broadcast industry in Nigeria, that we lost many of the broadcast engineers to the NCC. Go and check the list, because they are better motivated there, they are better remunerated there. But in the broadcast industry, the motivation has gone down. The salary is nothing to write home about. The chief executive officers that are supposed to fight for this industry are only there fighting for themselves. And that has been the trend in the last 20, even the last 20, 25 years. Where they're supposed to have opened their mouth and say, yes, we are defending this profession. They have not been doing so. And I told them that broadcast industry was better. That was why I used the analysis that people were running from other sectors, coming from other sectors to the broadcast industry. So today, the broadcast yesterday was better than what we have today. And what I would only say is that we cannot blame the government alone for this. We must be able also to blame the unions that are in this sector. It is part of our fault, because we have not been seen to fight for the right of the workers, and we have not been seen to be exposed. How many people have been sent of recent in the last 10 years to travel abroad? I'm not talking about Ogtv as an organization, but look at the broadcast industry generally in Nigeria. In those days, when you go there for some refresher courses, they expose you to some training abroad. By the time you come back, you become refreshed in such a way that you bring some very good ideas. But who are going out now for one training or the other abroad? Even if you look at the various institutes that are supposed to be providing the necessary training for the workers in the media sector, the brain drain has taken the best of hands out of those institutes. So it's something, it's like a chain. A lot of things that have affected Nigeria have also affected the media sector. And the quality of the workers, there is no more dedication. You know, those ones that were telling us those stories, even those of us that started about 20-25 years ago, we can even say, okay, a little bit of dedication. But when you now look at your payslip, as a level 17 officer, we use that one when we were agitating for that salary structure. A level 17 officer then, before the relativity and the subsequent new salary minimum wage, a level 17 officer in NT, who happens to be the most senior in NT, was receiving just 145,000 naira, whereas his counterpart in Federal Inland Revenue was taking about 500,000. How do you want that person to be dedicated when the salary of a level 10 officer in NTA was just about 50-something thousand, and the salary of a level 10 officer in places like Federal Land Revenue and places like EFCC was running to about 250 or 300,000. So how do you want the man? Do we have separate markets? So how do you want him to be dedicated to this work? How do you want him to put everything that he has? And this is a sector that you have to put every idea there. You have to go into research. A producer that was a newsman that was must always engage in one research or the other to really excel, to really fill the populace with the correct thing, not with mundane things. To really, because when you are working, most especially in the media, most especially in the broadcast industry, whatever they see on television, whatever people hear on radio, they take it as the gospel truth. So it means that for you not to feed the society with lies, for you not to confuse even the younger ones that are learning from you, you must go into research and get it right, and get the right figure, the right analysis, the correct thing for you to feed them. But when you look at your pay, if you are receiving the same thing, fine, you say yes, we are receiving the same. That motivation. Yes, there's that motivation. But when you put your pay slip side by side with the other sectors, in the health sector, in the oil sector, even those organizations that we were the one that nurtured them, the EFCC, the Federal Radio, Road Safety Corps, when you look at it, even when you look at the pay of even the Civil Defense Corps and so on, you look at your own something, you feel that, okay, upon all these things that I'm offering, so what is the justification for what I'm doing? What am I gaining? That brings down the morale of workers in this sector. There is no more commitment, and for us to get that commitment from them, that's why we are employing the employers in the media sector to really do things that will motivate workers.
Okay. Now that's a picture that actually will give anyone who is in this work environment some kind of food for thought and all of that. But it's one of those things that we as media practitioners will have to contend with. But let's look at the coming of private broadcast organizations. Before, it used to be government-owned broadcast media, radio, television, and all of that. But eventually, we now have private media, broadcast organizations, radio and television, and there exists some kind of competition. Now, people want to the state-owned want to say that, okay, we have been there. These private ones that are just coming could not come and overshine us and all of that. In spite of all of this, are you still saying that we have not actually moved any step beyond what we used to be, even before the advent of the private broadcast stations?
Well, in terms of remuneration, most especially in the government-owned organization, maybe because of the little expansion of the weighing allowance, or maybe because of the general increment in salaries and wages, that is the minimum wage. Well, maybe I will say that. But do you know that the private sector is very, very worse when you come to the issue of remuneration in the media sector? We have some organizations in this country that are owing as much as 10 months salary arrears, even some more than 10 months, more than a year, that they are owing workers in the media sector.
How are they surviving?
Oh, they will tell you that since you have an ID card, that the ID card is a license for you to get whatever you want.
How ethical is that?
Oh, that is part of the thing that I said that is contributing to the falling standard of everything. When you look at the content of the programming, when you look at the content of the news, when you look at the content even of the newspapers, you see that the commitments are no longer there. Let me tell you, look at the writers, the contributors in many of the newspapers. They are still the old hands that are writing better stories, that are writing better pictures, that are writing better articles today. We don't have new ones that are coming up, because like I told you in my research, which you talk about, the element of burnout is there. I understand people are no longer motivated. A lot of variables have set in. You understand? A lot of variables have set in. In some occasions, there are some organizations that don't even have. I know of some television stations where they cannot boast of 2 cameras. They will have to cripple the studio recording before they will go out for their ENG assignments. There are some stations that have not transmitted in the last 6 months because, one, they cannot even afford the purchase of diesel. You understand? So there are some organizations that don't even have the equipment. So I was talking about in terms of remuneration in the private sector, it's even worse in some areas. You understand? But what advantage that we have with the emergence of the private sector in the media is the competition. The competition and of course the balancing of the stories. Understand? Those in the government cannot say the entire truth about the whole event, but those in the private sector, because they want to endear viewership, you understand, and because the bottleneck is not there, and they are the one paying the salary, they are the owners of the job, so they can do it, they can say. So in some cases you try to get better information, the correct one from them, and better analysis, because there is no suppression. You cannot bring A to my station to come and talk against me. They have the freedom to bring whatever.
There's minimal undue ownership influence.
Ownership influence. Are you getting me? Those advantages are there. You understand? And when you also talk about equipment, I mean, many of those private stations, I know of a private station, I think they told me that has almost about 20 or 30 flyaway kits, when many of the state-owned stations don't even have any. And that is why I will digress a little bit to say, well, we must give appreciation to Senator Bikunle Amosu, because I'm part and parcel of Ogtv, and my desire is for this station to also move up. I'm a staff of this place, and by the time we leave, we also want to believe that Ogtv should be up there. I mean, we understand that already there's arrangement to buy the flyaway kit. You know, the flyaway kit enables you to beam any event live from many parts of the country. You understand? If you are in Ijebu, you don't need all these OB fans, all these bigger things before you take the event live. if you are in Ilaro, if you are in Lagos, if you are in Ado-Ekiti, whatever, it's just a matter of connecting your station via satellite with the flyaway kit, and you start transmitting live. We have some of these private stations that have as many as 10, 15 of these flyaway kits, and we have so many government stations that don't even have any. But I think OGTV is out of those list of those that don't have any, because this government, the government of the day, the government of Senator Bekuna Amisu, has decided that this station has played a vital role in the development of Ogun State, and they must focus on this station. And a lot of equipment have been purchased, which is making us very happy. Because one thing for you is to get the money, another thing is to have the equipment to work with. Motivation, there's a difference between what we call job satisfaction, motivation, job satisfaction, and what we call intrinsic motivation. When you are satisfied with what you are doing, you don't even look at the money.
Okay, we talk more about that. We still have with us here Comrade Abel Yemisi Bamgbose, the National President of the Radio, Television and Theatre Art Workers Union, is of course on the second term of the presidency of RATTAWU, and he has been speaking to us in the last few minutes about broadcasting, media practice, and all that needs to be done to ensure that the environment becomes a better place. Comrade Yemisi Bamgbose says much more still requires to be done in order to take Nigeria, as far as broadcasting, media practice and theatre works are concerned, to the next level, at least to be able to come at par with what obtains in developed part of the world. The program continues. Now, Comrade Yemisi, I know that RATTAWU of late had two issues to actually pick up with the federal government, or with government, so to say. The first has to do with the appointment of chief executives for government-owned media establishments. There have been these situations of non-practitioners, people who probably do not have the requisite competencies, being brought to come and head media establishments as a way of political patronage, therefore bringing untold downward trend in the morale of those in-house. That's very much there. Another one is the planned merger of federal government-owned media establishments under the pretense of the harmonization of merger of government parastatals, or whatever that is being called. I know that RATTAWU had actually come out openly to say we are not in support of the merger of stations like FRCN, NTA, and Voice of Nigeria into one entity. You had your reasons for saying so. The two instances, can you expatiate more on them?
Thank you very much. You see, the thing is that politicizing the chief executive officer position of the media has done a lot of evil for the media establishment in Nigeria than the good that they thought was behind it. And you see, it's very, very unfortunate. There are some instances that in many of the states they have appointed people that don't even have the cognate experience in the media sector to head that organization. And the flimsy skills that you don't need to have the cognate experience in any organization to run the organization. And this has contributed largely to the poor standard of the content and the output of the broadcast signal in this country today. Take NTA, for example. How will you go and bring somebody that left that organization on level 9 because he or she was unable to withstand the rigor of the work, and he or she left on level 9, and after about 5, 6, 7 years, you want such a person to now come and become the Director General of NTA, over and above the executive directors on level 17, over and above those that were his or her bosses before he left. What kind of morality are we preaching? What kind of example are we trying to show? What kind of politics are we trying to play? put yourself in the position of people that are working there.
Does it not suggest that such a fellow may probably will have acquired higher level of competencies and exposure than this level 17s you are talking about?
Within 5 years.
It's not impossible.
Yes, within 5 years. But you see, are you now also saying that out of those people that are there, none of them will have acquired the higher level of exposure and experiences? Are you saying that before they were promoted even to such a sort of position as a director on level 17 at the federal level, they wouldn't have been exposed to all those things that they or she might have gone to acquire outside? Are you saying that we don't have competent people within the organization that can perform wonderfully well? So why can't government now be taking some other people from other sectors to go and head the military or to go and head the police? Have you seen a situation where because the police is so rotten in Nigeria, they have now brought somebody from the Navy or from the military to be the head of police in Nigeria? Have you seen a situation when permanent secretaries retired at the federal level, they now go to private sector to go and bring permanent secretaries because those there have not acquired enough experiences and they have not been well exposed? You see, all these things kill morale of people. You understand? If you believe that people that are there cannot match the situation on ground, then you can retire those on top and appoint them among the senior ones to take over. But bring in people that don't even have the experience, bring people that don't even have anything to do with the media to come ahead. The media organization such as NTA is killing, and it will not allow development to happen. And that is why we have said, for once, we should be able to tackle the situation. What is the lot of people that have been working there? What is the experience of the person that is coming to head such a big organization? I think we have to start from somewhere.
And the proposed merger?
Yes, you see, I don't know, occasionally when people start giving government a lot of advices, you start wondering that what is happening in this country. How can a committee come up and say they should merge organizations such as NTA, FRCN together,
and Voice of Nigeria
together? I mean, to achieve what? This is a government that is saying they want to create more jobs. And they now want to merge.
They now want to close more jobs.
So with one DG, with one executive director marketing, one executive director engineering, one executive director programs, then what kind of job are you creating? You narrow the top echelon to one. Then it means that you have reduced 2 in the first instance. In each of the ones that I've mentioned, you have removed 2 DGs. You have removed 2 executive director news. You have removed 2 executive director programs. You have removed 2 executive director this and that. Then also, when people cannot move, then it means that you only have 1 director news for the 3 organizations. Then you have removed another 2. Then all these things. Then what kind of job are you creating? NT already is a mega station with more than 5,000 workforce. You now want to pull FRCN with about 3,000 and the Voice of Nigeria with about 1,005. You now want to pull them together to make a mega something. Then how will you control? What are we talking about of all this? You see, I want to believe that the President and Commander-in-Chief is a wise person. He will look at it critically, but we are vehemently opposed to the merger of the 3 organizations, and we are only using those 3 organizations as just yardstick. Do not forget that there are some other organizations, so many parastatals in the forces. And why did they establish those parastatals? Are we saying that those people that established those parastatals, they did not even consider some advantages before they put them together? Did they just spring up one day and they put them there just for the purpose of employment or whatever? When countries all over the world are even making frantic efforts to establish relevant organizations all over again, so that they can get many of their youth employed In Nigeria, we will now want to start downsizing, merging some organizations together, retrenching people. We are negating what is happening all over the world. And I want to believe that it should not see the light of the day.
Okay. Well, you can always count me on your side for that, if only for the simple reason that we still want more Nigerian youths to be gainfully employed. You belong to an international organization that has to do with media practitioners and entertainment and all of that. And by the reason of your present position as the national president of RATTAWU, you've had opportunities to interact with media practitioners from other places. Perhaps maybe we'll start from Africa. When you look at some of these things from other countries in Africa and Nigeria's situation as regards broadcast, will you say can you compare us? Are we at par, or are we ahead, or we are coming behind? Where are we comparatively to Africa?
Well, let me tell you, the part of the matter is that in some situations we are very behind. Understand? But in some instances we'll say we are up there. Look at South Africa, the major. What do I call South Africa now? The major challenger to whatever Nigeria is doing. Because when you go to international fora, they will tell you that no, Nigeria cannot equate itself with South Africa. They are more developed, they are more social. But South Africa has just only one government station, television station.
The SABC. That
is SABC. In Nigeria, do you know how many we have? Apart from the NTA, each state government.
Even some states even have more than one.
More than one. You understand? Look at Ghana. It's just only one government station. That is GTV. You understand? Look at Nigeria. How many do we have? So in terms of that, you see that we are up there. But when you now look at the area of equipment, you observe that we are far behind. We are still talking about digitization, and government has started shifting the
goalpost.
Yes, every year.
When the goal is about to be scored.
Look, and there are so many stations, and that is why you see when we are saying that government must be very careful in imposing chief executive officers on those stations. There are so many stations that I know in Nigeria that they are not even prepared at all for anything like digitization, because their chief executive officers have nothing to do at all with the media. Not a broadcast engineer, not a producer, not a presenter. He has not even worked ever as a marketer in the broadcast industry, and they just brought him from nowhere to be the general manager. There are so many states, I can count them. There are so many in Nigeria. And when we now look at the issue of digitization, many of these countries have gone digital. I was in UK a couple of weeks ago. And the man I stayed with just bought a new television, and it displays all this digital analog, and somebody said no, analog does not exist again, it's only digital. And the same thing in some other countries. Even when you go to South Africa, you meet it like that. Here in Nigeria, we are still struggling on how to go on digital. I don't know. And many states are not ready. They still go out to buy moribund equipment, transmitters that are outdated, that you cannot get their spare parts again, even from the manufacturers. That is what they still go and take into this country. In many of the states, I'm telling you, the fact and figure. You understand? Many of the equipment that they import into this country as broadcast equipment are the ones that the manufacturer cannot even determine the year they have manufactured them, and they still bring them down to this country as new. So when you look at it, when you compare all those ones, you see that they are far ahead of us. And the government has a role to play in all this that I'm talking about. Even when you are going on digital, the box, the television box in your house is analog, may not be able to work effectively with the digital. How are we going to convert that box? Who is going to fund the
set-top boxes?
The set-top boxes. The government has not even thought about that now, and many state government has not even thought about the digital equipment. And that's why, but you know, where I work in Ogun State Television, you know, maybe because of the fact that we are exposed to modern education very early, I think we are far ahead in many of the situations. But when we compare Nigeria as a country with many other countries of the world, we are far behind.
Okay.
As the UNIMEA, I am the only African in the UNIMEA World Executive Committee, and the president of UNIMEA Executive Committee now happens to be Moses, who happens to be the General Secretary of the BBC. And you know, BBC is an organization that has been setting the pace. So we meet and we compare notes at that kind of level to really see where we are, and that is the situation.
Okay. From the picture you painted now, in terms of what obtains in the broadcast environment in Nigeria vis-a-vis some other, it seems the broadcast environment is underfunded.
Seriously? Not only underfunded, grossly underfunded. You understand? So, and I want to believe we have to appeal to government to really pump money into this sector. And another area where we're supposed to be getting money, can you imagine? The 1999 Constitution bestows the power on local government to be collecting radio and television licenses. You will be wondering what's happening in Nigeria.
What is
the input of the local government into production of programs? What is the input of local government in radio and television production all over? When you go to Ghana, the radio and television license is collected by the broadcasting organization. It's tied down with the electricity bill. As you are paying the electricity bill, you must also pay your license. You can imagine if we are only charging 100 naira, even per year, you can imagine what Ogtv will be realizing. You can imagine what OGBC will be realizing. These are the resources that they use in foreign countries to fund those organizations. So we are not supposed to be fully dependent on government, and that is why we are unable to call the bluff of government. You sold them,
the piper dictates the tune.
So that is the situation. But when you are having some other resources coming where you can be independent, you can call the bluff of anybody.
Now, our time is as good as gone, but I want to ask you, you had 4 years of presidency at the RATTAWU. We saw your salient achievements. Another 4 years, or another 4-year period is here. What more new things are we expecting from the presidency of RATTAWU?
Well, even the last 4 years, I did not achieve anything. It was God that achieved all the things for us. And I still hold on to that, the Bible passage that says that with God nothing has been possible. A lot of things are still there for us to fight for. And God is my own refuge. Is the one that is fighting the battle on our behalf. We are still going to get more for the media workers in this country. More remuneration, more allowances. They crippled this organization, the media sector, I'm telling you. Can you imagine that in NTA, all those newscasters at 9 p.m., what was NTA giving them was just 300 naira on monthly basis. That is translated to 3,600 naira and on the yearly basis. You understand? We told NTA to stop insulting people's side. Why are you giving such a ridiculous? So we are now negotiating to get a befitting allowances that are peculiar to our industry. We are on
and that will trickle down
by the grace of God.
Now, you believe in the Nigerian project, don't you?
Yeah, very well.
Then if you do, you have some words of encouragement for Nigerians, even as the situation appears very damning now. What will those words be? We
are passing through a very serious and a precarious situation in this country, but hope is not lost. There is light at the end of the tunnel. I'm very sure that we are going to survive it. And I know Nigeria is going to become a developed country. I have that belief and I'm convinced, and it's going to happen during my own lifetime. So, by the grace of God.
Yeah, it's on that note of assurance that we are actually drawing the curtains on today's edition of the program Hot Seat. Our guest has been the National President of the Radio, Television and Theatre Arts Workers Union, RATTAWU, and is also the only African on the Executive Committee of the Unions in Media and Entertainment International, which is a global body for all practitioners of media and entertainment. And we're talking of Comrade Abel Yemisi Bamgbose, who has actually shared a lot of experiences with us as far as the industry is concerned and what more needs to be done to ensure that the Nigerian media environment becomes a better environment. Comrade Abel Yemisi Bamgbose, we want to thank you so much for your time with us, and we are so convinced that so much more is in the offing for this industry and even for you as a person.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I can only wish you the very best in this endeavor. We thank you so much.
We also require your support and your cooperation, every worker. When we blow the whistle, you follow us.
It's a foregone conclusion. That's how it's going to be today. We'll see you next Wednesday, God willing. Coyote.
Well, I can only say bye-bye to you. I have thoroughly enjoyed our guest here today, and I'm sure you enjoy him too. Next week when you come your way, we'll bring you another guest. Bye-bye.
Thank you.